am Don Braden. I'm the music director for the Litchfield Jazz Camp, and Albert Rivera is my and Albert and Andrew Hadro are doing the operational work of running the camp. They dealt with everything, setting everything up. My main job is a live camp when that kicks in a couple weeks, but I'm happy to participate with some very special events this week. So we have Emmet Cohen coming in on Friday afternoon at 2, and we have a very special concert tonight with the Texas Jazz and Blues Camp faculty, who we'll talk more about that at that time. It's really fun. It's really great folks. And our guest for today, presented by Texas Jazz and Blues Camp, is a great friend and a great mentor. And he, when I was most of your, in this age range of you guys, that 14, 15-year-old zone, this guy took me under his wing. He saw I was serious, and he really did all he could to help me and guide me and keep me on the path of working and enjoying this incredible music. Everything from inviting me to his jazz camp, which has always been an inspiration for the camp, for Litchfield Camp. Jamey's an ongoing inspiration for that part of it. Giving me, or at vast discounts, or giving me records of all types. Play along records, all kinds of resources. Jamey's has been super generous. And what he's done for jazz is incredible. I mean, he's run camps since, he could probably tell you precisely, but since the early 70s at the very least, and even up until 2019. So he's done incredible work for jazz camps. Has a huge publishing business, publishing incredible books, a lot of which, play-alongs, but also books like Effortless Mastery and a bunch of others that you probably have heard of. So Jamey is a true master. In fact, he is an NEA jazz master, so he's a true master in acknowledged that way, and he's also actually, because he plays amazingly, by the way, in addition to being an incredible educator and having done so much over the decades, he also plays great, loves playing, is all about music. He has that joy, that love affair with jazz that is inspiring at all times, even at his youthful age. After all this time, he can tell you more about that part of it. So I'm very honored to be here. I'm in Texas now, and so we have a few things to share with you over the few days. Like I said, so I'm working from Texas to facilitate some of these events, but I'm honored to be here to present the awesome, my good friend and mentor, great inspiration, legendary Jamey Aebersold. Put your hands together for Jamey.
Hey, good to see you, Don, and all you students out there. I know you're going to have a great week, or you are having a great week here at your camp. Sorry, I can't have my camp this year. Didn't have it last year. We had 53 years in a row, though. So I'm going to dive right in. And so, Don, we're going to go about till quarter till,
and then do
then we stop for questions.
Yeah, right.
Okay, and then I've got to stop at 2 o'clock your time. I got to go have a root canal done.
Oh, fun. Good. Peachy.
Yeah. Can't wait.
Party time.
Can't wait. All right, I'm going to dive right in.
Yes, sir. Do you think?
Let's see if we can see the screen now. Okay, Colin, can you put that screen up there so I can see it too? Okay, so anyone can you all see the screen?
It looks like white
Students?
to me.
Can you see the screen?
I'm trying to find your.
Oh, you're trying to find the screen?
We see you, but not the sheet music.
Yeah.
Is there music on there? What is on the screen, Jamey? We see white.
It says anyone can improvise.
Okay, we don't see that yet.
Must
We
be
see,
the
it's
camera.
bright. It's super
Tell them
bright.
to look for the Jamey Aebersold other video.
Oh, it has another video that's joined the conference?
Yeah, under Jamey Aebersold.
This is Kendall Carter.
Interesting.
We had it this morning.
I don't see Jamey Aebersold. I see Wilton's. Oh, there it is.
Wilton.
I see it.
Wilton.
There it is. Yeah.
For some reason, I'm unable to click on it.
Oh,
Can you see anyone can improvise?
not yet.
Yeah.
Maybe
Can you see this?
Should he rejoin? Should he quit out and rejoin it? Or what do you think, Colin? we see the Jamey Aebersold, but we don't see the video, and we don't see it's not coming in for some interesting reason. Technology, you can't. Oh, here it
there
comes.
we go.
Now we got it. There we go.
Yes.
There you go. There you go.
There
Okay,
we go.
now we're ready.
Now this is like
Okay.
brings back memories
Well,
of the
let's
old days.
start
Man.
now. Anyone can improvise. I found this out a long time ago. It doesn't mean you're going to end up sounding like Miles Davis or Sonny Rollins or Charlie Parker. If you keep at it, it's exactly what you want to do. Along the way, you need to listen to all these other players in the past that have made this music so valuable and exciting to play. So anyone can improvise, and that's true. Here's the most valuable book around, and it's free. It's a jazz handbook. It says handbook here. You can't see it. And it looks like, my desk. On my desk. I'll get one for you in just a second. It's red, but it's on my website, jazzbooks.com. Go there and look under free items. The whole book is there. And if you want one, here's the book.
Yep.
Oops, got to get it up there. Yeah, there you go. That's what it looks like. It's about 48 or 50 pages, and it's free, and it's got everything. Put that back, please. And it's got everything you need to know. It's got all your scales, your chords, your practice, and it's got quotes. It's got information from other players and how to practice, what to practice, et cetera, et cetera. So don't overlook that jazz handbook. And if you want one free, just write me, or if you want one there at the school, and I'll send you all the ones you need. My site is Jazz Books. That's my email if you want to write me, Jamey@jazzbooks.com. And jazzbooks.com is my site. All right, we've got thousands of things on there. We also have the streaming. I got over 2,000 play-along tracks with piano, bass, and drums, okay? And they're all divided up. One track might have piano and drums. The other track might be bass and drums. And the other track might be piano, bass, and drums. You pick which track you want. It's about $5 a month. You can't beat it. You got 2,000 tracks. Go to jazzbooks.com and you can see it there. Okay. So here's the most important thing I've found. I'm 81 years. I'll be 82 next month. Wow. Can't believe I'm not old. But anyhow, I started listening to music when I was born because my parents, they loved to dance. My dad played the banjo and messed around with the piano. And my mom played the piano and sang. This is back in 1939 when I was born. So radio was important, and it was very important for music, jazz. It had only been out about, 20 years or so of the radio. So it was great to turn on the radio and get a station that played songs you're familiar with and so forth. And back then, there would be live music broadcasts from various places. And I can remember as a teenager, probably in junior high school, 13, 14 years old, turn on my radio real soft, and I got a station out of New Orleans, and they broadcast dance bands from the top of this hotel. And I thought it was the greatest thing in the world, just listening to live music over the radio. Then, of course, records came along, and records is where it's at. I want to just show you a couple here real quick. Let's see, we got, Ken, you got to, just turn your phone around so I can hold up like this. All right, there we go. Horace Silver, that's a 2-record set. Fantastic. It's got all of his famous things on it. Hey, these are LPs I'm holding up. Roland Kirk plays 3 saxophones at the same time. Let me see if I can get this angled properly. There we go, almost. Okay. Ira Sullivan's on that one. Now, this one is a classic. Miles Davis with John Coltrane playing Bye Bye Blackbird. And this one here is a classic. Wes Montgomery with Wynton Kelly, Paul Chambers, and Jimmy Cobb on the drums, live. And this one here, John Coltrane playing Soul Train. Fantastic record. Oh, and this one here, I've got all the Sonny Rollins records, but this one is the standout. This one has shorter tracks, but he plays more common standards, let's say. Now, he doesn't get into his calypso thing, which he did later on. This is a monster track. Oh, this one here. And this is an all-time classic. It's got Dizzy Gillespie. He's the leader, and I didn't know he was the leader because I thought Sonny Rollins and Sonny Stitt were the leader because they were on the album and they were the outstanding players. They do a tune on there called The Eternal Triangle. It's based on rhythm changes. Wes Montgomery, his first record. Wes Montgomery, I got to play at a jam session with him when I was about 20 years old in Indianapolis. He's from Indianapolis, Indiana. I bought this record, And I played it, I wore it out, I literally did. And I often thought, if I could just play the melody to Satin Doll or Around Midnight, the way Wes Montgomery plays it, I'll be happy. Forget about the improvisation. I don't know if I'll ever get there, but I memorized all those solos. Here's another one, a classic Coltrane record, Crescent, one of his best records. And then, of course, this one here, Miles Davis. They play a lot of tunes on here, and they got that ending that everybody plays where it goes up in a minor third. So I can't stress enough the importance of listening to records. Of course, I don't listen to records too much anymore. I listen to CDs. Okay, let's dive right in. If you're not used to doing this, if you're not used to thinking numbers, you need to start right now, today. You need to start thinking numbers. Scales and chords. Scales are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 and 1 are the same, but 8's usually up an octave, okay? If we say play the ninth of a chord, we mean to play, I need that pencil, thank you. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 9 and 2 are the same, okay? And you need chords 1, 3, 5, that's a triad. The first three, a tri means 3, and if you play the first note of a scale, the third and the fifth, it's called a triad. If you add the seventh, it's called a seventh chord. If you add the ninth, it's called a ninth chord. And we practice those in different manners. I'm going to take up in for a second. We practice those in different keys. For instance, think about what I'm doing. Raise your hand. Do any of you know what I just played? Anybody? I see 4 faces there. Okay, what I did was I played a major scale from the root up to the ninth, back down, and then I played the ninth chord. Do da do da do da do do dee da do 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 boo boo ba da do do dee da oo boo da. And how did I do that? I went up chromatically. I started on E for the alto, then I went to F, then F sharp, then G, and then I think I stopped with A flat. Maybe I didn't even get that far, okay? But thinking numbers is going to help you take patterns, melodies, phrases, things you hear in your head, and move them from key to key without having to think F sharp, G sharp, B flat, A flat, D flat, C, F natural, it's like that. Numbers is like universal. So if you're not used to thinking numbers, start thinking today. And if you use numbers for the different qualities, major, minor, dominant seventh, half diminished, Lydian, there's a lot of different scales. Each one of them, we refer to them as a quality, all right? So this, that's a minor 9 chord. That's a minor quality. Here's a minor scale. Here's another minor scale. Here's another minor scale. There's another minor scale. So there's a lot of different minor scales. You just pause for a second and take a look at them. When I was your age, all I played was pure minor. And when I listened to my records and started transcribing and listening carefully and writing down some of the phrases, I realized they were playing some other scale, but I didn't have a name for it. That scale was the Dorian minor scale. I didn't know that scale until I was about 20 years old. So you all are learning at a much earlier age. I was about 20 years old, took a lesson from David Baker, and we played a tune called I Remember April, and he got up to that 5th bar. I was playing pure minor. He let me play the melody and then take a solo. And then he said, now, Jamey, in that 5th bar, you're playing the wrong minor scale. You're playing pure minor. You need to raise the 6th. Now, that was the first time I've heard anybody use a number, to talk about a note and a scale. I just saw a scale like that. I never thought of 1, 2, 3 or 1, 3, 5, 7, 9. But from that day on, I started thinking numbers. And it took me a long time on my alto. I was in E minor. So it's E, F sharp, G, A, B, and I was playing C. And he wants me to raise it to C sharp. took me at least 30 seconds to find the sixth note of the scale. You know, E is 1, F sharp is 2, G is 3, A is 4. And about that time, I'd go back and start again because I wasn't used to thinking numbers. But I've got the numbers down now. So when we're talking, you'll say, no, you flatted the ninth or you raised the ninth. You should make it natural. Or you want to lower that third. And people instantly know what you're talking about. They're on A minor. You just played a C sharp. The teacher says, no, you made it major. You want to make it minor. Take that C sharp and lower it down a half step. Make it minor. So here's a page on the minor scales. That jazz handbook, incidentally, has a whole lot of information in it. And you want to get familiar with it. Just talking about scales here for a minute. And then I'm going to play the blues and demonstrate some of this stuff. If you take a major scale, I use a triangle to denote major, or just C. C or C triangle. This is all in the nomenclature page on that jazz handbook. You'll see all the different ways that people through history have written symbols, which we call nomenclature, for scales, which represent sounds, which is what we play in our head. So if you take a major scale and lower the seventh, it becomes the all-important dominant seventh. There you go. And then if you take a Dorian minor, if you take the dominant seventh and lower the third, it becomes a Dorian minor. So a Dorian minor, which I hadn't heard of until I was 20 years old, is nothing more than a major scale, and you lower the third and you lower the seventh. Okay? And that's the scale that's most popular in jazz. We have half diminished scales too. Now, they scared me to death when I was in college. Half diminished scale was like, oh my, that's something from Mars. Well, a B half diminished has, B major has 5 sharps. So I was always afraid of B when I played my alto because it took fingering and I hadn't practiced that key very well. B half diminished is the same as C major, but it starts on B. No sharps and no flats. So if someone asks you what is the easiest half diminished scale to play, you probably want to say B because it has no alterations. And then we have a half diminished sharp 2 where you take a C and raise it a half step. But this comes a little later. We have the blues scale, which I'm sure you all have already been playing. And maybe some of you have been playing the pentatonic scales, possibly across the blues. Down at the bottom, it says, scales are your best friends. Get to know them inside out. They'll do whatever you ask them to do, but make sure you know them well. Now, in relation to that, here's my page. I know what I want. It's just probably covered up. Excuse me for a second. Well, I'll just write it down. All music is made up of, let's say you're going to start something. You're going to play, you play a note, all right? Then you're going to play another note, and how are you going to get from note to note? Okay, it's going to be scale-wise. Are you going to go or chords? Are you going to go chromatic? Are you going to use some leaps? Or maybe you use some rest, okay? And maybe you use some sequence. Okay? So if you start and you start to play your solo like that, you're going to find that bits and pieces of what you play are based off of scales and chords, more than chromaticism, leaps, rest, and sequence. Now, these are used here. You need this to maintain interest when you're soloing. But the basic solos that people play, the phrases that we play, the melodies that we play are based on bits and pieces of scales and chords. That's why you practice your scales and your chords. And if you just sing, beep, 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 boodly, ba ba doo dee, ba da do ba ba, beep, 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 boodly, ba doo bo da, went right down a major scale. Bo ba doo doo dee, 1 3 5, 1 3 2 1. Bo ba doo doo dee doo da do dee do dee. If you were to look at this on a keyboard, and I strongly advise you all in the jazz book handbook, there's some voice things. There's some pages on piano voicings, real simple ones, in the back. There you go. You can swipe on it. And piano voicings are extremely important. I started out at age 5 and took piano lessons, classical piano lessons. She fired me at age 10. She gave me my $2 back one day and said, Jamey, you'll never be a musician. You don't want to practice. So I went home and I kind of avoided the piano for a long time. I don't know how long, 6 months, a year, because I was afraid if I expressed any interest in playing the piano, which I did, that they'd have me taking lessons again. But I didn't. But eventually got back into just messing around with the keyboard. And the keyboard is extremely important. And in the jazz handbook, there's 5 pages of very simple voicings, and everybody needs to learn these. You don't need to be a piano player. Trumpet, violin, harp, clarinet, French horn, whatever. If you get to the point where you can play 3 or 4 notes in the right hand and the root down on the left hand and make that sound, it's a whole lot different than going one note and then imagining what that one note sounds like against a major scale or whatever. So scales are extremely important, up and down. And if you haven't practiced your ear training, you need to do that. There's a lot of different things. And there's 2 pages for ear training in that jazz handbook telling you what to do. If you have a pitch pipe like this one, which is the old kind, this was my college education, 5.5 years. Be da boo dee ba boo doo da do do dee do dee ah do do dee ah do do dee ah boo do da dee da do do dee boo do do dee do do dee do dee be ba ba do 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 dee da da do do dee do dee. And you check this out. And this has been in my brain since I was about 19 years old. Right there. You ask me a question about something, I go up here, I see it mentally, I see the keyboard, and I give you an answer. All right? Now then, each one of these symbols that we're going to see here when I play this blues in a minute, equal a scale and equal a chord. C triangle is major, C dash is a minor, that's Dorian minor. C7, dominant 7th, half diminished and diminished. These are 5 basic qualities that we use all the time in tunes. I noticed you all are playing, you're playing impressions, and you're playing, and that uses the Dorian minor scales, okay, 2 Dorian minor scales, and you're playing softly as in the morning sunrise. That's usually in the key of C minor, and that's a Dorian minor, but it also has a 2/5, D half diminished to G7, so you can practice with the harmonic minor scale and the half diminished scale there, all right? And then your other tune you're playing is Tenor Madness. That's a blues, and you want to play the scales, which I'm going to play in a minute here. I'm leading up to it. The scales that the piano and the bass are outlining, or you can play the blues scale, or you can play the pentatonic scale, or you can play some chromaticism and so forth. An underlining point that's very important and that we do when we sing, but when we pick up our instruments and play and we don't have a lot of experience, we don't do it. And that is, when we sing, we emphasize on in 4/4 time on beats 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3. On beats 1 and 3, we emphasize chord tones all the time. Okay, all the time. That's why when the pros like Don Braden play, he doesn't need a piano and a bass or a guitar to outline the chords. He's always outlining the chords. Sometimes he'll go away from it, but when he goes away from it, that increases the tension, and he's also by coming back. Everybody does that, and it's the way we sing with a mind. But I oftentimes, some of you, I'm sure, when you start out playing, you don't really know what that first note you're going to play is going to sound like. And after you play that first note, you don't know whether you're going to go up, or you're going to go down, or you're going to make a leap, or you're going to go chromatic, or you're going to just hold that note. That's because you haven't pre-thought what you're going to have this instrument play. So the mind needs to be in control of the music all the time. And I'll tell you this, if that means that you're going to have to go back to kindergarten with the way you've been playing your jazz, then go back. Go back, think about what you're going to play, maybe sing a solo, then sing a phrase, play a phrase, sing a phrase, play a phrase. But make sure when you play music on your instrument, that this is when you're soloing now. I'm not talking about practicing scales and things. But when you're soloing, make sure that what you're soloing, even if it's simple, is what you're hearing in your head. Because that's what people want to hear, all right? So every one of these symbols that you see on these charts represents a scale. And if you take basically every other note, it becomes an arpeggio or a chord. So this is chord, this is vertical, this is a scale, and it's horizontal. All symbols convert to both scales and chords, all right? Now then, having said all of that, let's take a look at this. Let's take a look at the blues. Let me get that on there. Is that's on the screen? Good. Okay. So how many of you have played the blues before? Raise your hand. Okay, a couple of you. Good. The blues is a 12 measure progression. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. And then it repeats over and over. This is off of my volume 1 play along. Does anybody have that? Okay, a couple of you could. That's track 7. Here's what I was looking for a minute ago. Okay, so here, where are we? Usually then it disappears. Oh, we got good. All right. So each symbol represents a scale. The dark notes are the chord tones. 1, 3, 5, 7, 9. Okay. This means to repeat this measure. This means to repeat this measure, and this means to repeat this measure. All right. This is called a 2, Roman numeral 2 to 5. This scale and this scale are joined together. Okay. C, Dorian minor, and F7 have the 2 flats. Okay. Have the 2 flats, and that F7 wants to resolve up a fourth, which it does, to B flat. The F here wants to resolve to B flat. So this is called tension, release. Tension, more tension, release. Tension, release. Tension, release. Tension, tension, release. Okay, so we want to learn these scales and arpeggios, and when you do that, it's going to give confidence to your imagination. All right, so I'm going to put on track number 7 and play with it. It's a B flat blues, and Kendall's going to keep our place here. Here we go. I'll make up a little melody.
1, 2, 3.
Now I'll try and play that again if I can remember. I don't think I can remember it. Okay, so everything I played there, I was hearing in my mind right before I played it. Be-lee-bo-dop. So I'm thinking all of that right before I play it. And I can tell you what the numbers are and this, that, and the other. Because that's what I've been doing for the last 60 years. Teaching and thinking and so forth. I don't think anybody's ever died from overthinking. The jazz musicians love to think. And that's why I think if you get into playing jazz, you don't have to worry about your parents saving money for bail because you're not going to get in trouble. You're going to be thinking and using your imagination, and you're going to never have enough time to practice. That's for sure. Okay, I'm keeping a look at the clock up here because it's not stopping. It's moving on. Let's take a look at this is the sheet I was looking for a second ago. All music is made up of scales, chords, leaps, chromaticism, repetition, hold, rest, sequence. These are devices down here that we use. But everything's made up of bits and pieces of scales and chords. You can listen to Ornette Coleman or Albert Ayler. They're using a lot of chromaticism, leaps, and this, that, and the other, and maybe changing the tone of the saxophone with the throat, this, that, and the other. And that all goes into making up a solo. So the tunes that you all are playing, that you've been working on, here's the Impressions by John Coltrane. And if you look at the solo section, it's basically 2 Dorian minor scales. D minor for 8 bars, D minor for 8 bars, E flat minor, and D minor. Everything I put on the screen is pretty much in concert key, okay? So if you play a transposing instrument, of course, it has to be transposed. And if you have my play-alongs, everything is transposed for you. And then another one you're going to play is the blues, Tenor Madness, okay? And it's a blues. Now, sometimes I usually go to the 1 chord and then up to the 4, and then back to the 1, back to the 1. But some people play B flat, B flat, B flat, B flat, and that's fine. That's a little older type of blues where you don't make that change up here to the 4 chord. That's one tune you're working on. And another one you're working on, from what Don told me, is Soft Is in the Morning Sunrise. Okay, and this could be played at different tempos, but a lot of people will play C minor for 8 bars. And if you've got good intuition and good imagination and good facility, you can do that. But most people kind of tip back and forth between the Dorian minor scale here, or the harmonic minor scale, or the melodic minor scale. This tune's in a minor key, so you can utilize some of those other minor scales. But usually they play this over here, coming back to here. And then they play that coming back. They alternate back and forth, but you don't have to. Or they might play 4 bars straight of C minor, and then over here, dip into this to give you a little tension, all right? But the bridge is completely different, of course. It's major, major, and then you're going to here, or you're going to G half diminished, or you're going to E diminished chord. You got several choices here, and they all are leading up to that F minor there. Usually that's an F sharp diminished chord, I think. Then you go D half diminished, G7. So this is not a beginning type tune. I've often found myself, it's easy to sing through something like this. But when I pick up my saxophone, oftentimes I can't find the keys. But that's just because I haven't taken the time to find those different notes that I'm hearing in my head and phrases. And then somebody's going to do, maybe the vocalist is going to do body and so you're going to do it in the key of B flat, which just happens to be the key that the alto saxophone plays on. All right. So if I were going to play this, now this is in the alto key here, but that's what Don said you're all playing on it. Said you're playing it in the key of B flat, which is B flat somewhere, 2 bars from the ending. That was a diminished chord. Then I resolved the root. But here's what I would do. I would practice at C minor scale. Let's play 7th chords, 1, 3, 5, 7. Start again. Just 2 beat kind of rubato. Practicing the arpeggios. Triad first, then the seventh chord, then the ninth chord. If you can do that on a tune like this, it's going to give you a lot more material to use when it's your turn to actually take a solo. Does that make sense? All right. So you tell me, what am I playing? Tell me what I'm doing here. It's going to be like an exercise. I'm outlining seventh chords, right? 1, 3, 5, 7, 1, 3, 5, 7, which brings up another thing. Don't be afraid to sing. Open your mouth and sing. Major scale. Dominant, minor. Diminished. Whole tone. Now, what I'm pointing here, I'm pointing to the fingering on the alto. G, A, B, C sharp, D sharp, F, G, F, E flat, C sharp, B, A, G. I'm visualizing it in my mind as I'm doing that to you. If I were doing the piano, then I'd be going, say, C minor. C, D, E flat, F, G, A, B flat, C. 1, 2, lowered 3, 4, 5, 6, lowered 7. Oh, it's a root. Sorry, my voice is off. 1, 2, lowered third, 4, 5, 6, lowered 7, root. We bow do do da do dee bow bo do bo da. I was playing the Dorian minor lick. Then I brought it down a whole step. It's 2-bar phrase. Like, boo ba doo doo da doo dee. No, 4-bar lick. Dee ba doo dee. Then I went down a whole step. Then I went down a whole step. Another whole step. When you get that jazz handbook on page 12, is a great page because when I was young, and I'm sure you're much like I was, oftentimes you run out of things to do, to think. You don't know what to do next. Well, when I was young, I practiced my scales and arpeggios up in half steps, up and down in half steps, up in whole steps, and down in whole steps. Okay, but that's all I did. I never did the cycle or anything else, and I didn't know to, for instance, if I was playing a tune like here's Confirmation by Charlie Parker. I didn't know to play the arpeggios, you know. I didn't know to do that. And I didn't know to practice the first scale. Oh, sorry. I just didn't know to do that because nobody told me to do it. All right. But you need to do that. You want to do that over and over. So no matter what scale you're playing or what arpeggio you're practicing or what, maybe you're practicing Mary Had Little Lamb, start on the C. Now you go up a half step. Then you go up to D. Next thing you know, you realize that Mary Had Little Lamb is in a major key, but it starts on the third note of the scale, not the root. And then maybe try Mary Had Little Lamb down here on number 5. E flat. E flat. Et cetera, et cetera. These are just ways, and this is on page 12 in the Jazz Handbook, ways to practice different things that you're thinking. So if you're playing a phrase, I'm sorry, that's what I was looking for. But see, I was mentally thinking I was in the key of B. I was on an F sharp, and my brain was saying, Jamey, you're in the key of B. So I played that ending phrase. I played it wrong. I went down and hit a B, and then I realized I'm not in the key of B. I'm in the key of F sharp. And you practice it, whatever key you need to practice it. Okay, Don, you got any questions?
Do I have any questions? Ha ha ha. I'm watching you and listening to you, and I'm saying, yeah, I definitely study with this guy or study with your methods, because there's so many elements of this stuff that I use in the real world. And of course, I would like to add to this. You obviously covered in a kind of the basics, but all the scales, as we say, scales. It scales all the way up to whatever level of harmony you want to add to it. So you can go very advanced with all this stuff. No, question-wise,
Don?
yes, yes.
Let me say something.
Tell
you
me.
just made me think.
Okay.
Years ago, I was doing a week-long workshop with Rufus and various people up in Brockport, New York, and Woody Shaw was there. And he and I were going to play a couple tunes together, and we're backstage, and I hear him warming up real softly on the tune that we're going to play. I don't remember what the tune was, but he was doing this. You say it was a moment's notice. Or whatever. He was running 7 chords up and down.
Yeah.
I'd never thought, I guess, to do that.
At that time.
To him. I said, wow. And I started doing that, just like I was telling these students here to do that, you know?
Yeah.
But there was the great Woody Shaw using a simple little exercise to acclimate his ears and his mind to the tune he's going to play in 10 minutes.
There you go. That's great.
Yeah.
And I do this, again, having learned it from you back in the day, I tell all my students the same thing. 7th chords, 7th chords, 7th chords. Even when I'm on the bandstand, on the road, wherever whoever I'm playing with, if I don't know the tune, if I know it, I'm cool. But if I don't know it, I'm going to be running those 7th chords. That's my thing. I'm in the habit of doing that. And it really does get you rooted. Hey, Jamey, talk a little bit. The students have questions, I'm quite sure. I know these guys do. But I would like you to talk a little bit about rhythm from your perspective, about working on rhythm, how to work on it, and the importance, etc. That's pretty, I deem that a pretty important topic. And so whatever you'd like to say on it, I'd love to hear you talk about it.
Okay, you don't mean I got rhythm.
I mean rhythm as a concept, rhythmically, playing rhythmically,
Right,
articulation and whatever.
Rhythm is the most important thing. It really is.
Yeah.
And I hope that 99 or 98% of the time I play good rhythms, even though maybe I muff up the notes or the phrasing or the articulation. But I hope it's got good, what I call time.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think rhythm is closely coupled to articulation.
Yes.
I can't get that low. Yeah, right. Rhythm, time, and articulation, I think, is really good. And when I listen to it seems like trumpet players just have fantastic time. Miles Davis is a good example. I used to try to find him like playing a wrong rhythm or something, you know. It just was impossible to do. And another thing with Miles, I examined the notes that he played at the end of phrases. I noticed that when I'd be listening on the radio or to a record of Miles Davis playing, he'd play a phrase. My mind would hear the phrase stopping, and he'd go a note or two longer. And then when I knew he was going to go a note or two longer and hold it, he didn't. He stopped. So it got me thinking about endings of phrases in addition to articulation, okay, and time being something that can be done by itself, and you really don't need a rhythm section. As a matter of fact, practice, and I don't have one here, practicing with a metronome is good. Dick boom ding dicky book boom ding ding ding. Because a metronome's not going to lie, you know. I put it on 2 and 4 when I practice. 2 and 4.
Yeah.
2, 3. And I got to run it through my speakers or something because with my hearing aids and stuff, I can't hear it real well. But I remember at school up at Indiana University, I'd set my metronome up on top of one of those tall pianos so I could hear it better and practice it clicking on 2 and 4 just to get the time. Because I think I noticed early on that time is extremely important. You can play the greatest lines in the world, you know, and have facility, technique. But boy, if it's not in time, it just doesn't get to you.
No.
I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, sure.
And Don, another thing, when you're practicing these scales and chords and arpeggios, time, you practice them in time. You practice everything in time. Unless you're working out some real intricate fingering thing, you got to slow it way down. But you gradually need to get it back up to where you might possibly use it in the solo.
Yeah.
But there again, you're practicing those scales and stuff in time, even if it's slow. And then gradually pick up the tempo.
Great. Yep. All the basic stuff, but it's very extremely important, critical. Great. And, and there's a lot of you blasted through so much incredible vice. You know, just singing is so important. Piano is so important. Scales and chords, obviously, listening, imagination. Thank you for all that great information. You put it out there really fast, so hopefully everyone got a lot to decode. Grab the Jazz Handbook and get cracking. Organize yourselves and work on some stuff. So, students, let's get some questions from the students. Maybe we'll start with someone who's in the room here, and then someone who's online. If you think of your question while someone's asking one here, we'll just alternate between, maybe something like that, just to give everybody a shot with the time we have left. Okay? So we'll start with whoever's here who has a question.
What does he mean by facility?
Oh, okay. And tell us your name. Remind us, Nate. And you play. What do you play? Nate's a baritone. Nate's a baritone saxophone player here in Texas. He asked, "What do you mean by facility? What are you referring to when you say facility?"
Facility?
Yeah. What are you talking about?
Yeah. Getting your instrument to play what you want it to play. Getting the fingerings down on your trumpet, your saxophone, on your piano. The piano is I've always felt like piano players have to work extra hard because they've got to get the right hand doing the solo. Then they got the left hand to comp for their solo while the right hand solos. And then they've got to get both hands to go to comp for other people. And if you're in a combo, you're probably going to be comping more than you're going to be soloing. So, but facility means, can you sit down and play a blues? Can you play a blues in time? Can your imagination come up with something and you start playing a blues in a comfortable key? You're either going to have the facility to do that or you're not. Now, oftentimes people will have good technical facility, but they haven't thought about connecting it to their mind. Bib be ba do do da. We do da oh ba do da da. Boodle diddly dot bib bo bop. Boodle diddly dot bib. And then a different key. Boodle dee oh. A little finger won't work. You got to practice on boodle diddly dot bib bo bop. Jazz musicians, I noticed early on when I was up at IU, they practice things in all 12 keys. And of course, David Baker and Jerry Coker and Dan Hurley and everybody else came along and said, man, you got to do stuff in all 12 keys, and so we tried. But I mean, for certain tunes, it was practically impossible, because it would take so much time in order to produce that solo in that key when nobody's ever going to play in it. But at the same time, your imagination is thinking, I wonder if I could do that. I bet I could, So facility is something you gain over time.
Cool question, actually. Surprised me how good that's. Well done. He came up with great stuff, of course. Okay, someone from the Zoom gallery got a question? Raise your hand, and we can unmute you if you have a question.
Yeah, well, I have 2 questions. One is,
okay, great.
How much time should you put into practicing each day? Like,
what's that?
How much time should you put into practicing each day?
Not enough.
So as much as
Not enough. I'm 81 years old, okay? So I started playing the saxophone when I was about 12 or 13. After my older brother played the alto, and then he quit band, and I just started messing around on it. And I'd been playing the piano, so I knew something about, I could read music and so forth. And then when I got to college, I wanted to go for saxophone, but at IU, back in 1957, when I graduated from high school, colleges did not accept jazz was a dirty word, number one. Saxophone No, that'd be like having an electric guitar back then, you know. So I had to take oboe, bassoon, flute, and clarinet. I took a woodwind degree at Indiana University for 4 years. And finally, Roger Pemberton came to school of saxophone, and he gave me saxophone lessons.
Roger
Thank
Pemberton.
goodness.
Wow.
And we got to practice jazz and so forth. But I never felt, I don't think you're going to find any jazz musicians that have felt like they practiced enough. And the reason for that is your imagination. Once you play a phrase a couple of times and you get it the way you want it at different tempos, possibly, then your mind says, well, what if we change the end of the phrase? You know, what if we add a note here? What about if we make the phrase a little longer? Can you play it up an octave? Can you play it down an octave? You know, so there's no end. The imagination takes over, and there's no end to practicing. So I feel like I never practiced enough. But I'll tell you this: for what I do, I think I play as well now as I probably have in a long time. The pandemic gave me time to practice at night, late at night for an hour or so, which I didn't get to do for years, really. I kind of abandoned it. And I just hope I don't lose my facility, because I sit out there, I go to bed at night, I'm singing solos. I go to bed at night, I'm fingering my saxophone. Occasionally my wife will punch me and say, Jamey, you're practicing. And I'm not uttering a sound, but she can tell just by the quietness of it that I'm practicing. So put in as much time as you can on the basics, and they're going to lift you up later on.
All right, thank you.
Nice.
I do have another question. Does practicing from jazz carry over to other genres? Because I play jazz, but I also do some classical.
Well, I think we all of us older ones started off from classical, probably, if you took lessons from somebody. And then we kind of worked our way into jazz on our own. I know at Indiana University, you weren't supposed to practice jazz in the practice rooms. Now, no one ever came to me and told me that, because I probably wasn't playing enough jazz that they recognized it as jazz. That's a joke. But if you had a jam session or something back then at school in the early 60s, that was kind of a no-no, because this was for classical music only, you know. Now that has been, that's changed. That's 60 years ago, you know. So, but I'll tell you this. I've noticed people, especially on piano, I can tell when jazz players play, I feel like I can tell if they've had any classical training, because the way they'll finger the scales and the smoothness and so forth. If you're going to play the piano, for instance, or maybe the bass too, there's certain ways to finger things that are easier than you might learn on your own. So I can kind of tell with piano players who's had classical training, and sometimes to what degree that they've had that training and transferred it over to their scales and tunes and stuff, you know.
Cool.
Thank you.
All right. Cool. All right. So from this side, the Texas side, question. And say your name for. Huh?
Is he able to hear me?
Speak up. Just his mic's here.
Yeah, I guess my name is Will Sharp. I guess I was wondering how you ingrain like those practicing techniques into like songs that are a bit more like fast paced and more complicated, like Moment's Notice per se. Or if you have any tips.
You do the same thing that you do on the easier tunes. I'm looking. I'm getting right down to it. Is that it? Yeah, that's it. This is one of my favorite tunes. I just went halfway through. Okay, so that was 7th chords I was playing. And then here's a phrase that I've made up that I like to play across this progression. 1, 2, 3. Was that phrase as long as I thought it was, or did I take a breath?
You got the breath in there somewhere, yeah.
And I have a breath. I had to. It's
Yeah,
too
yeah,
low.
yeah, you did.
But no, this is a challenge, and that reminds me of something else, Don. When I was young, when I was in the 6th grade, my mom and dad bought they bought a Hammond organ. Now I don't know if they bought a B3 or not. I can't remember. But anyhow, they had 2 manuals, so I learned to walk bass lines because I'd had 5 years of piano. So I played the chords in the right hand, and either in my junior or senior year, my dad bought a Duquesne reel-to-reel tape recorder with a little microphone. And I set that up on my piano, on the organ, and I made a couple play-along tracks. One of the tracks was Moment's Notice. It was either Moment's Notice or Lazy Bird, okay? And the other one was a blues and B-flat, and probably one other tune like There Will Never Be Another You. I took that recorder, tape recorder, and the tape, and to school, to Indiana University. And I can still remember getting ready to go upstairs and practice 8 o'clock at night for 3 or 4 hours, or practice or do something. Listen to jazz, transcribe records, practice piano, whatever. And I'd say to myself, do I want to lug that tape recorder up? Yeah, tonight I will. So I'd lug it up, set the little speaker up, and go, and I'd play along. That was my first play along record. That'd be back in 1957, 56, 57. And then 10 years later, I put out the volume 1 number play along record.
Wow.
You know, but just the facility, and like I showed you on that one page there in the here it is. This page 12 in the Jazz Handbook. Have you got that? Page 12 in the Jazz Handbook is going to force you to practice whatever you're thinking in different keys. This is an extremely important page right here. You come up with the pattern, you come up with the idea, and then work it through all 12 keys. And that'll give you facility, but it'll also, it's like oiling your imagination when it comes time to soloing. You know, you're in the key of E7, let's say, and all of a sudden you're friends with E7, whereas before you didn't even know that it had 2 sharps or whatever.
That's your
I
question?
think we know. Oh, they're out.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna have to go get my.
Yeah, so we're gonna wrap
Roots.
up. We're gonna wrap up soon. I want to do one quick announcement and then a quick thank you. So, I want to first off, I want to thank you, Jamey. That's fantastic. I really appreciate your wisdom. So, big round of applause. Woo, 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 woo. Really appreciate you, man. Love you, and you're the man. So I appreciate it, and it's so funny, man. I can tell everyone here. I'm 57, so 40 years down the line, he was telling me similar stuff as a kid when I was your age. And trust me when I tell you, it has served me time and time again over the decades. I mean, seriously. And I played with a lot of people, hard tunes and whatever, and I'm going to go back to those 1, 3, 5s, and 7s. I'm going to go back to that rhythm. I'm going to go back to listening. You know, I joined Freddie Hubbard's band. I knew all the music already because I'd already listened a ton to all the Freddie Hubbard records. So when I bought the records back in the day from Jamey Jr. Well, he wasn't selling records then. He was part. From you or from him. That's all. So that's what I want to really say from my part is that part of it. So thank you for that part of it because it really is valuable still, honestly. So
I enjoyed it.
Huh?
Good luck on your concert tonight.
Yeah. So I want to say the last thing, this project is funded by the New School of Music, Austin, and in part by the Cultural Arts Division of the City of Austin, Economic Development Department. Okay, so I just want to put that out there as they helped us make all this happen. So they helped pay for Jamey, Monks, and all that stuff. So thank you to New School of Music, Austin, Cultural Arts Division of the City of Austin, Economic Development Department. Thank you. Everyone got that? One more round of applause for Jamey. Take care of that. Take care of that root, man. Have fun.
Okay.
Lots. See you. Saltwater, man. Saltwater. Saltwater. You need for your root canal, man. That's old school. We still on or we're done?